we are back and we're creating our Tetris example. Let's look at where we are. We're kind of focusing on the live view portion of the program right now. So this is the live view. Recall that everything is coming in through our router. So when the user hits that route, we're going to go in. First, we're going to hit the mount. And the mount, we're going to establish a socket. And we're going to put these values in it. And right now, we're only putting one thing in it. We're putting the tetromino value. And here, we're just rendering that. And we're doing this in an HTML pre. And recall that what we wanted to do was render this with Svg graphics. And as you might or might not know, but Svg graphics are graphics that are vector graphics. And that means we have a lot of little instructions. And curiously enough, we can access those directly in HTML. This is what we're going for right here. So this is the Svg example. And you can see that this is an individual Tetris block. So we'll have a bunch of those strung together, well, 4 at a time, to make the following tetromino. And then at the bottom, we're going to have just a collection of Tetris blocks. But this here is the root of what we're going to be building. And so let's look at what that code looks like. I'll zoom it up, zoom in for you a little bit. So this is effectively what we're going to build. Let's grab that now to use as part of our code base. And we could use Phoenix tags, and let me show you what that looks like. So in Phoenix HTML, there's a tag function that allows us to build individual tags like this. But I think that what we'll do, just for clarity, we're just going to build a couple of functions that will drop HTML straight into our space, just because I don't want to teach too many concepts at once. So the first function that we need is Svg Head. And that's basically this part right here. And I think that maybe we can just drop it in place right there. And we're going to use a concept called a here doc, which is basically triple quotes. And this lets us drop strings directly into code, which is nice. So in this case, we've got the Svg heading, Svg foot, and this is just going to be, I'm going to close up the tag like that. So this should give us about what we need. So this is the footer. And initially, let's say that we're going to have two different functions. One is called a square. And let's say that this square is going to take an X and a Y location. And it's going to render this right here. But we're going to render it relative to where it is on the screen. So one of the things that we have to do, recall that our inbound points are going to look like 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, and 4, 1. We don't have an Svg point with any kind of width to it. So we're going to have to convert the point. We're going to convert that to pixels. And we're going to say that is, let's call these point X and Y, and we want to convert those. We want to say, actually, we're going to work with an X, Y that's already been converted to pixels, and we're going to pass that point X. Well, actually, we don't need to do that, do we? We can pass in this whole point. Let's take that point, and that's going to be an XY. That's going to return an XY, and then eventually we can return this here. And so we're going to, for the point, it's a private function. We're going to make that 2 pixels. and this is going to take an X and a Y. And this is basically going to multiply the X times the width and the Y times the width. So let's do that. And I think that we're going to have a width of the whole container. Well, at least we should save room for the width of the whole container. And then, so we really want the box width. So let's use a module attribute. So let's say X times box width. I can spell that out. We're not going to use it that often. And then it's going to be Y times. So that's nice. That's going to work well for us. And I think that maybe what our box height. If this was square, we could use both at the same time. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that we ought to specify both the width and height just in case we need them. So we're going to say our box width is 20 and our box height is also 20. Okay, so let's see where we are with this. So our square starts at 1. Which is really going to be X plus 1, and this is going to be 1, and so that's relative to where it is on the screen, so that's going to be Y plus 1. And this is really 18. The width is 18, which is really the box width minus 2. And we're going to do the same thing here. Box height minus 2. Okay, and so now we can focus on that triangle part. So remember we had this gist, and that's the raw code. There's a triangle. So basically we just built a whole rectangle or a square, and then we laid a triangle on top of that. So we're going to take that triangle and we're going to render it here. We're going to play the same game. So this is going to be a triangle. A triangle that takes a point. We still need to do those conversions right here. And then we're going to drop these in as a here doc, just as we did the square. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So these ones, those are X's, so we're going to add X plus to these. Let's double click there. And let's say that is X plus whatever that beast is. And this particular beast is box width. And this particular beast is also. And this is going to be, so these are the Y coordinates. So we're going to say Y plus those bad boys, and this one in particular is going to be height. So let's go ahead and set and then we'll well, to keep those consistent, let's go width height. How about just W and H? Just saves on space a little bit. And that's going to be box width, box height. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I like that because that's going to allow us to basically tighten this up a little bit, but still save the documentation so people can see what that is. And this is the height. We could play the same game here, but it doesn't look like we're in as much trouble with the line width. So I think that we can go ahead and leave that intact. So let's see. I like this okay, but one of the things that I'd like to do is render the whole box at once. So let's do that now. I could play some games with the way that I'm rendering strings to make them more efficient. I don't think I want to complicate the issue here. So I'm going to say def box, and this is going to have both pieces, and this is going to be a point. And so basically, I think what I'm going to do here is or actually, yeah, I think that's fine. There's another here doc, and I'll just drop them right in place. I'll drop the square in place right there, and then I will drop the triangle in place right there. And I think I got the order right. I think that it was square and then the triangle. So the other thing that remains, we're going to need to add some color to these things right here. And so right now, let's take a shade and let's drop the shade in there. So the shade is just going to be a hex character code. And this also is going to take a shade. And this is going to be, it's going to be dropped in right there. I think that that looks pretty good. So we can actually try to render this whole thing. So we'll leave our pre in place there. Put a div. Let's close that out. And let's render this. And we're going to render it with just a straight function call. And that's going to return a string. So right now, that is, we're going to call that a, this is a, do we call it a box? Yeah, so that takes us a box, and that takes a point. And we could hard code the point at 1, 1. And it also takes a color, right? So our shade, let's go ahead and pass it the string AAA. I don't quite like that. I don't like this quite yet. I'll talk about why in a second. So we're going to pass the shade on through. And pass a shade in here. Okay, let's see if we get what we're looking for here. So now we're going to our, we need to fire up the local host 4000 to see where we are. Okay, so invalid, yeah. So so I'm not using, I'm probably doing box width equals. I do that sometimes. Yeah, finally we got a more descriptive error message. That used to trip me up for a while. Let's see if it likes me better now. So now I can go to Tetris. Let's see if this blows up. Okay, so this works well. And you can see that I am getting some output here. But it isn't quite what I expected. I get this rectangle, and you can see that I haven't yet wrapped it in the... So I get both of the SVG elements, which is great. And you can see that I haven't yet wrapped this in the SVG header and footer. So I need to do that, but otherwise this is going to work just fine. So here we are, we have this, and so I also need to grab one of these for up here and another one for down here. And I'm going to take the SVG head, and this one is going to be the SVG foot. And let's see, and I need to call raw on these, and the reason is that we were getting this a string before because Phoenix was helpfully escaping this. What I'm telling it is, I'm telling Phoenix that, hey, we know that this might be HTML. In fact, it is HTML. But we're saying that this is safe to render because I have created this. I have passed this through for the user. Okay, so we are getting the Tetris shape here, which is nice. You can see that it's all one color though. So one of the things that I need to do is break that down into the shade. And what I'd like to do is take the colors. In fact, I have in the gist that we had here, I have some Groxio colors. So we'll stay in that color scheme with the muted blues, greens, oranges, and grays, and then we have a red that's also kind of a muted that fits the color scheme in our brand. And I think we'll use those instead. But let's drop them in here, and let's use. I love to use the multiple cursor here and add them for these kinds of problems, especially when I'm doing a pattern matching style API. So this is a def p. And I'm going to say color or shades. I'm going to get the shades, and I'm going to specify basically these individuals. And then we're going to pass in, I think, a map. That will probably work the best. So let's say which one is lighter. So the light shade is going to look like this, and the dark shade is going to look like this. Yeah, okay. So what I have. So shades red. Okay, yeah, this is not quite it. But what I have here is a pattern matching set of functions. And this pattern matching set of functions, all it's effectively doing is returning a map with the shades that we need. So now when it's time to call the individual pieces to the box API, I can pass in that red, and then I can grab the right shade from it in either in the code above or the code below. So let's see what this looks like. So if we pass a color, like an atom in right here, that's going to work great, isn't it? So in this case, I could say shade of the color, or shades of the color, and then I could pull the light for the square and the dark for the triangle. So the triangle goes down, I think. So maybe it's best to have the dark on the bottom. So I have to have a light source up above to one side or the other. I'm not sure which way that it goes, but let's see if that does what we're looking for. So now, if I reload this, okay, so we have a problem on line 73. So syntax errors are great because they basically are catching problems before our customers do. So let's see, I have the def p shades. What's it telling me here? It's saying there's an unexpected token, close parentheses, because we're unbalanced. Okay, yes, these should be, rather than close parentheses, they should be close braces like that. And let's see if that gives me a better result. Okay, so we don't have a matching clause because basically I'm trying to pass the direct shade through, and now I can pass just an atom name, can't I? So rather than the AAA, here I can pass like a red, like that. Yeah, let's see. Yes, and that is working just fine, just like that. So this is going to work great. And now I should be able to take a list of points and build some type of a tetromino, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so we're probably in a pretty good stopping point for this particular video. I think the next step is for us to take, instead of one square, let's take a chunk of squares and let's render them all all at once. And then we'll be able to rapidly start manipulating the tetromino. So this is a great place to take stock. Next, we're going to render, now we're rendering a square. Next, we're going to render a whole tetromino, and then we can drop that pre at the top. Stay tuned, it's getting fun.